Coltrane is a very dominant, and some would argue perhaps too dominant a figure in modern jazz. I mean, he sometimes seems the over-determining presence. Everyone who picked up a saxophone after Coltrane somehow either had to confront him or avoid him, which are both quite risky things to do. How important was he, not as in terms of stylistics and in terms of the way he played the saxophone, but almost as a spiritual figure? I mean, what was his importance to you?
Well, when I was 22 years old, I listened to Coltrane, a lot before that, but I had an opportunity to hear him live with his quartet, the classic quartet with Elvin Jones and McCoy Tyner and Jimmy Garrison. And one day I went to the Village Gate and Coltrane was playing, and I was sitting there, and I remember how I felt when the trio began playing before Coltrane came on stage. And the rush when he came on stage was like if you're sitting in an airplane about to take off and it takes off and you feel that surge like that, and it goes down the runway. And then at that moment of V1 when it lifts off, that's what it felt like. And I felt all the air inside of me go out. I couldn't breathe. I thought, I'm going to die in here right now, but that's okay because I just heard Coltrane play. And it was late at night, and I don't live in New York City. It's about a 2-hour drive for me to go home, and I was kind of tired, and I sort of fell asleep at the wheel, and the car went off the road and hit some things and started going. Then I woke up, and I thought, maybe I did die. Maybe I didn't leave that room. And then I heard one night, Chasing the Train. And there's a long period where Elvin Jones and Coltrane have this duo going on like that. I never had anything like it. It happened again. Well, I wasn't playing saxophone at the time. I was only playing trumpet. And I didn't even think about playing the saxophone until I heard Albert Ayler. And Albert Ayler and John Coltrane to me were my gods, and Ornette Coleman and that. But it was Coltrane's spirituality really lifted everything, and you could feel it when you walked into the room. I'll recall two more times that I saw Coltrane. One was when he played at the Village Vanguard. It's called Live at the Vanguard again. And I was very happy to be there, sitting in the front row when they played, I think, first Naima, which was an extraordinary version of it, with Coltrane playing the melody, and then eventually Pharoah Sanders comes in and they play. Well, that was another plane that took off. Pharoah Sanders was like the second stage of a multi-stage rocket going up. And the last time I heard Coltrane was just a few months before he died. At the Vanguard, he was there again, but with 7 percussionists. This was just before the Olatunji recording. If you're familiar with that recording, not a very well recorded document, but an extraordinary document of the power and the spirituality of Coltrane's music. And the final thing I'll say about that was in 1967, I was preparing for my first recording, and I was in an apartment that just happened to be right across the hall from Ornette Coleman. And I was playing my trumpet in the room that day, and there was a knock on the door. And it was Ornette Coleman, and he said, I heard you playing the trumpet. He said, try this. And he had a trumpet, and he gave it to me. And I thought, this is too much. This is just way over the top. I said, yeah. He said, I'm going to Fort Worth, see my family. He said, when you're finished, put it in the room. So he left, and I did a few things, and I said, oh, no, this is too much. And when I knew he was gone, I put it back. During that week, John Coltrane died. And I had to go, we were having a recording session on a Saturday. John Coltrane's funeral was on a Friday. So I was there in the same apartment, and a knock came on the door again, and it was Ornette, and he said, are you going to go to the funeral? And I said, no, I don't have any clothes. Just have the clothes I'm wearing. He said, you don't need clothes, special clothes, just go. So I went. And I was there when I heard Albert Ayler's band and Ornette Coleman's band playing at John Coltrane's funeral. that was quite something. But it wasn't the end of the story. So I went outside of the church, and I'm standing on Lexington Avenue, and Ornette came out again. And I have, to this day, I don't know why he did it, but he said, we're going to the cemetery. Billy Higgins, Harold Avent, and Ornette and I, a limousine came up, and off we went to the cemetery. So I was there. We arrived late because of the traffic. There was nobody there except this tent over John Coltrane's grave. And Ornette Coleman, who is with us now. He's now 84 years old, and I understand he's not in very good health, but, you know, one of the real pillars of this music that we've been trying to do, one of the fathers of this avant-garde, whatever that means, music. So those are some of the experiences I can tell you about, and about the power and the spirituality of John Coltrane himself and his music, his influence.